In the beginning, when light still conversed with shadows and the echo of creation resonated in the void, a voice rose from the heavens. It was the voice of the one who had been called Bearer of the Dawn, the most beautiful among the children of dawn. Lucifer, his brilliance surpassed that of all others, his intelligence defied the stars, and his desire was to be like God. His fall shook the foundations of the universe. The heavens trembled, the stars went out for an instant, and the angels watched in horror as one of their own was cast into the abyss. But what few know, what has been erased from the sacred texts, is that Lucifer did not fall alone. His fire ignited other hearts, and from his ashes would be born the mystery that I will reveal to you today. Because there were those who did not follow him openly, but they kept the seeds of their rebellion a secret. Angels with profound gazes, observers of humanity, fascinated by our fragility and our desire for more. When Lucifer was banished, they remained in the heavens, but the echo of his name resonated in their thoughts. They secretly wondered, what if light could be shared? What if divinity didn't belong solely to the Creator? The universe seemed to respond with silence, but God's silence is stronger than any word. In that silence, temptation was born. For ages, these angels watched over the earth. They saw humanity emerge, struggle, love and die. They saw the imperfection of their flesh and the divine spark that dwelt within their souls. And among them, some began to desire something impossible, a new Adene kingdom where heaven and earth could merge without the authority of the Almighty. Their names were erased, their voices silenced, but ancient traditions whisper that among the vigilantes and the rebels there existed a distinct group, the children of Lucifer, not children of the flesh, but of the spirit, conceived from the idea of freedom that he sowed before his fall. They didn't descend violently, nor with war cries. They did it subtly, with a purpose disguised as compassion. They wanted correct creation, improve it, purify it, what they considered human error. Their intention was noble at first, and so began the plan that heaven had feared since the beginning of time, a plan to rebuild the lost paradise, but without God. The first whisper of this plan arose amidst the winds of the second heaven, where the boundaries between light and darkness blur. "Let us create a new Eden," they said, "a garden where man must not kneel, where knowledge is the true source of life." At that moment the story split in two. What should have remained a mystery became a purpose. Lucifer's sons gathered their council. There were 7 of them according to the oldest fragments, 7 spirits of fire who still retained part of their original glory. Their eyes reflected the stars, but within them burned a flame of doubt. The first one of them spoke. "Lucifer was condemned for seeking equality, but we will seek neither throne nor power, only balance." The second one replied, "If the Creator denied perfection to man, we will build it, not out of pride, but out of compassion." But the third, the wisest, warned, "All of Eden without God becomes an abyss." No one heeded his warning. Desire turned into fire, and fire into purpose. From then on, the heavens began to divide. The melodies of angelic choirs mingled with dissonant notes, and the dimensions vibrated with the expectation of the imminent birth of a new creation. Lucifer's children were preparing their descent. And you who are listening to this story will understand that what happened next was not just a rebellion, Bhutan imitation of heaven, a copy of paradise, an imperfect reflection of divine glory, because the angels did not want to destroy creation, they wanted to replace it. And so began the erased story, the story of the false Eden. The descent was not accompanied by thunder or lightning. There was no war cry, no shout to tear through the skies. It was silent, almost beautiful, like a dawn that deceives men before the sun rises. From the purest heights of the firmament, 7 lights descended slowly. They were enveloped in golden fire and crystalline shadows. They were children of Lucifer, but they did not fall into open rebellion. Instead, they rebelled in the name of love, compassion, a dangerous illusion. Their wings still retained their celestial whiteness, but their glow was different, a warm light, more human, closer. And when they touched the earth, it trembled gently, as if recognizing its ancient guardians. The air was filled with an energy that ancient men described as the breath of the gods. The trees bowed before them, the rivers parted to reflect their faces. And so his work began. They walked among men without revealing their true nature. They assumed human forms, forgotten names, and taught secrets that once belonged to the heavens. They did not seek to destroy, but rather to guide. But knowledge is a fire that can never be controlled. The first one taught sacred geometry, the hidden patterns in creation, the divine language of numbers. The second one revealed the mysteries of life and death, and men learned to manipulate that which should be sacred. The third one taught the power of voice and sound, creating enchantments that opened invisible doors. The room showed the art of healing, but also the domain of the body and mind. The fifth one brought the wisdom of the stars, and men began to read their destiny in the heavens. The sixth taught the power of fire and metal, forging weapons that should never have existed. And the seventh, the most beautiful, the most tragic, taught love. This last gift was the most dangerous of all, because love mixed with immortality becomes desire, and desire without purity leads to corruption. Lucifer's children began to love what they saw, the beauty of women, the passion of men, the innocence of humanity. Their hearts, once made of divine fire, were inflamed by human emotions, and so without realizing it, the sacred was contaminated by the earthly. Ancient texts say that the earth has become a mirror of heaven, but a distorted mirror. Men worshipped them, built temples in their honor, and called them gods of the dawn, guardians of wisdom, bearers of light. And the angels, in their false humility, accepted this worship, believing that their purpose was still pure. But heaven watched in silence. And God's silence does not mean approval. The vibrations of the universe began to change. The rivers turned red. The wind carried echoes of sadness. The wise elders of antiquity wrote, "The children of the dawn walk among us. Their eyes are beautiful, but their shadow is long." In secret, some of them met. They knew they had gone too far. Love and knowledge had bound them to man, but had separated them from heaven. One of them, the youngest, knelt in the sand and wept. "What have we done? We thought we were bringing light, but we only brought fire." But it was too late. From their union with humans were born powerful and terrifying beings, the children of the mixture, half spirit, half flesh, giants, sages, warriors, magicians, those whom legends would later call Nephilim, titans, ancient gods. The plan was unfolding. The new Eden was beginning to flourish on earth, and from his prison in the depths, Lucifer watched with pride and sadness. Its flame was still burning, but even he understood that fire, when it spreads without limits, ends up devouring everything it touches. Lucifer's children had achieved the impossible, bringing heaven to earth. But what they didn't know was that they had also brought hell with them. And so, while the world applauded her wisdom and surrendered to her beauty, a new darkness began to take shape, a shadow that not even the angels could control, a shadow that would rise against its own creator. The earth has changed. Under the guidance of Lucifer's children, the ancient world flourished as never before. Cities rose upon pillars of white marble and gold. Rivers were diverted to feed eternal gardens. And in the heart of this splendor, men and women worshipped the wisdom that had descended from the heavens. Lucifer's children kept their promise. A new Eden had been born. But it was not the Creator's Eden. It was his reflection, an imperfect copy bathed in false glory. The air was filled with celestial music and perfumes that satisfied the soul. The nights were so luminous that the stars seemed afraid to shine against such splendor, and in that splendor, corruption began. Men, once humble and fearful of God's will, now walked upright with pride in their eyes and fervor in their hearts. They believed themselves equal to the angels who guided them. They learned to create, to dominate, to shape life. The mountains were drilled to extract metals that were transformed into crowns, thrones, and weapons. The animals of the field were domesticated not out of love, but for power. Knowledge had replaced faith, and desire had replaced purity. Lucifer's children watched their work with pride. Finally, they said, humanity has achieved what the Creator denied it. And while man was clothed in gold, they were clothed in shadows. Its light, which had once been a symbol of hope, began to fade. They were no longer teachers, they had become gods. The seventh of them, the one who taught love, was the first to fall into despair. His heart was divided. He loved a mortal woman with a love so pure that its fire threatened to consume his celestial essence. But the heavens do not permit this union. From their love was born an impossible being, neither angel nor human, a soul divided between two worlds, the first hybrid child of the false Eden. Her tears were of light, her voice made the earth tremble, and it was this birth that sealed the destiny of all creation. The wise men of that time wrote on stone tablets that a new race emerged among men, tall, powerful, with eyes that could see beyond time. These hybrids built temples where magic and science blended. They deciphered the secrets of the soul, the body, and the stars, and they invented the idea of immortality. The Eden of Lucifer's children extended to the ends of the earth. From the fiery mountains to the verdest valleys, man no longer prayed to the invisible God, but to the visible gods who lived among them. And although the song spoke of peace and wisdom, something dark was growing beneath the roots of paradise. Knowledge, in becoming absolute, began to devour innocence. Love, transformed into desire, brought jealousy, wars, and sacrifices. The perfection that Lucifer's children sought was transformed into madness, and Eden, which was supposed to be eternal, began to crumble. The seas roared, the skies darkened, and the sun turned red, as if creation itself were rebelling against its new gods. It was then that the first humans, those who still remembered the Creator's voice, began to have visions. They dreamed of chained angels, of fire falling from the sky, of mountains split by divine lightning. The prophecy had begun to come true. One of Lucifer's sons, the wisest among them, rose during the night and gazed at the stars. With tears of fire, she said, "This is not paradise, it's a prison. What we built to liberate man is condemning him." But it was too late. From the heavens, God's silence turned into a roar. The heavenly throne trembled, and the four archangels received their command: go down and destroy what the children of Lucifer had created. The false Eden would be judged. The divine fire was preparing to fall, and humanity, witness to forbidden glory, would soon know the face of celestial wrath. The silence that preceded the trial was more terrifying than any thunder. For 40 days, the sky remained still, and the stars, witnesses to creation, went out one by one, as if refusing to witness what was about to happen. In the heart of the false Eden, men danced, celebrated their supposed divinity, and offered incense to the angels who had descended. They did not know that the air already smelled of celestial fire. Then a crack crossed the sky. A ray of white light pierced the darkness, and a deep voice echoed throughout the world. Those who brought the light without permission will taste the flames of judgment. It was the beginning of the end. From the eternal throne, the Most High sent 4 of his most powerful warriors, Miguel, Raphael, Gabriel, and Uriel. Each of them went down with a mission. Miguel, the bearer of justice, had to break the swords of false Eden. Raphael, the healer, had to heal the wound of creation by destroying its corrupt root. Gabriel, The messenger of judgment brought divine verdict upon the children of Lucifer. Uriel, the fire of God, would be the flame that would purify the earth. The heavens opened in whirlwinds of fire and gold. The men looked up and thought they saw the sunrise, but it wasn't the sun. It was the fire of judgment descending. The mountains trembled, the rivers evaporated, and the temples of the false gods began to crumble. Lucifer's children gathered in their great city, a place known in ancient texts as Ilion, the city of the seven suns. There, atop their crystal tower, they gazed at the approaching light. They knew what it was. They knew who was coming. The first to speak was the one who taught the geometry of the universe. The balance has been broken. Our numbers cannot stop the justice of the Almighty. The second one, the one who had revealed the power of life and death, cried out in despair, "If we must fall, let it be among our own creations. Let man see how his gods die." And so the war began. The sky blazed like an ocean of fire, and the earth responded with thunder and earthquakes. Miguel descended like lightning and split the tower in two. Raphael stretched out his hand, and from his palm came winds that uprooted the false Eden. Gabriel spoke, and his voice was a decree. Knowledge without purity turns to ruin. Light without truth is eternal darkness. Uriel then raised his flaming sword, and with a single blow unleashed a torrent of flames. The waters of the sky mingled with the fire, and columns of smoke rose from the ground, enveloping the entire city. The men ran, shouted, sought refuge, but there was nowhere to hide from the gaze of God. Lucifer's children, seeing their creation crumble, tried to resist. Some confronted the archangels, others fled to the depths of the earth, seeking the dark realms where divine light does not reach. But no one escaped judgment. The wisest of them, the one who had warned of the danger, fell to his knees amidst the burning ruins. Its wings, blackened by the fire, were slowly disintegrating. He murmured, "What we try to create without love destroys us." At that moment, Raphael approached, and with compassion in his eyes, sealed his fate. He who partakes of the light without obeying the Creator ceases to be an angel and becomes a shadow. One by one, Lucifer's children were chained. They were taken to the very depths of the abyss, where rivers of lava replaced the voice of the wind. They would remain confined there until the last day, when the books of heaven are opened again. The false Eden has been consumed. The cities of men disappeared beneath the fire and water, and those who survived told the story as if it were a myth, a legend, a divine punishment forgotten over the centuries. But some wise men preserved a fragment of the truth. They wrote on their stone tablets that not all of Lucifer's children were destroyed. Some were left wandering between worlds, formless, nameless, awaiting the day when man will once again seek forbidden knowledge, and on that day they will return. When the fire died down and the smoke cleared, the earth looked like a graveyard of stars. The mountains were blackened skeletons, the rivers teemed, and the sky, once home to celestial choirs, had turned into a grey blanket. Humanity, stunned, walked among ruins that had once been golden temples and eternal gardens. The false Eden had fallen, and with it, the innocence of the world. The few survivors looked up at the sky in fear. They no longer dared to pronounce the names of Lucifer's children, but within them a spark remained lit, a spark that the fallen gods had left behind. It wasn't faith, it wasn't love, era curiosity, the same desire that once led the angels to rebellion. The lost texts of the Book of Enoch and the fragments of the Ugarit tablets speak of a covenant sealed after the judgment. God, in his infinite mercy, did not completely erase the memory of man. This allowed a vestige of knowledge to survive, a warning and a promise at the same time. And it was this legacy that propelled humanity to rebuild, to dream, to seek answers from the universe. But the price was high. Since then, the human soul has been divided. One part seeks the light, and the other yearns for the forbidden. This is the legacy of Lucifer's children. Every advance of humanity, every discovery, every war, every idea that defies the heavens, carries with it the echo of its voice. They no longer walk among us as beings of fire and wings, but as whispers. His words are hidden in the dreams of the wise, in the experiences of scientists, in the notes of musicians who seek divine perfection in their art. Lucifer was chained, but his thoughts remain free, infiltrating the minds of those who dare to ask what others fear. Because knowledge never dies, it just changes hands. Over the centuries, the names of these angels have been transformed into symbols, gods, demons, and legends. Baal, Moloch, Asmodeus, Samael, they were all born from the ashes of Lucifer's children, from that failed attempt to create an Eden without God. And although history has tried to erase them, their traces remain in the myths of all civilizations, from the temples of Babylon to the papyri of Egypt. Some say that secret doors still exist, vestiges of the fallen Eden. Places where the air vibrates with a strange energy, where the stars seem closer, and where whispers of the past can still be heard. The ancients called them the thresholds of fire. And those who oppose them feel the weight of a broken promise. A timeless voice saying, light and darkness are not enemies, they are reflections. This is the lesson that Lucifer's children left engraved in the history of humanity, that good and evil are not absolutes, that knowledge can elevate or destroy, and that every soul, from its first to its last breath, carries within itself the same battle that once took place in the heavens. Perhaps that's why man always seeks the impossible. Perhaps that is why the fire of creation and the fire of destruction burn in the same heart, because humanity inherited not only the form of angels, but also their desire to be more, to reach the eternal, to touch the face of God with their own hands. And perhaps, just perhaps, that was always the Creator's intention, to allow man to walk the fine line between light and shadow, so that he may learn for himself the value of balance. Thus ended the story of Lucifer's children, but its echo did not fade. Its flame remains lit whenever a soul dares to ask, to challenge, to seek. They were condemned for teaching what was forbidden. And yet, thanks to them, man learned to look to the sky and ask why. So when you gaze at the stars tonight and feel that mysterious call that leads you into the unknown, remember, not everything that is forbidden is cursed. Sometimes the fire that destroys also illuminates. And in that brilliance, perhaps, the shadows of those who wanted to be gods still gleam.